We are live. Welcome back to the live Total OS Today Show podcast right here on the terrific LinuxDistroCommunity.com. Total OS Today is total technology for newbies. For tonight's show, we will be talking and recommending some top Linux OSs for newbies for 2012. Charlie, welcome to the show. This is your first time. Now, Charlie does have a YouTube channel, and I browsed through. I came across it strictly by accident, and I like what I saw. It seems to be it's tailored for newbies. Is that true, Charlie?
Yeah, all my videos are geared toward the new user.
Cool. Well, let me get this started here. I posted a video, I think it was about a couple weeks ago, on my choice for the top 10 Linux for newbies for dummies for Linux OSs for newbies for 2012. Now, my top 10 list is simply based on my experiences. It is not necessarily a complete list. Now, some distributions on my list were Linux Mint 13, Mate, Ubuntu 12.04, which is my current desktop here. Linux Mint 13 also that is also an LTS, as is Ubuntu 12.04. I prefer the Mate or the Mate over the Cinnamon edition. I've always liked and enjoyed the Mint menu, but that's simply a personal preference. I would also recommend, Charlie, Pinguy 12.04. If you have an older desktop or laptop, certainly take a look at Linux Lite or maybe Xubuntu. And I've been messing around a little bit with Manjaro Linux. And Manjaro is super fast, but it's based on Arch Linux. It's somewhat designed for newbies, but it's not quite there yet. But Charlie, I think you browsed through my top 10 list there. What do you see?
Well, what I saw was Linux Mint and Audio, and I believe that one takes the cake. The Mate edition, Mate or Mate, it just simply works, and I think that's what new users need. They need to be able to install it, and everything just work, and it has all of the basic apps that you're going to need. Um, I have looked at the Pinguy back at 1104, and I thought that was an excellent release. And I did skip the 1204, and I'm currently waiting for the 1210. But you're going to see that Pinguy and Linux Mint, they're going to be right there together, and they're going to be the top ones.
Let me ask you, what do you currently have as your default machine now?
On my primary machine, I use an operating system, Fedora-based Xubuntu. And as my other operating system on my other machine that I'm currently using right now is Ubuntu 12.10.
Do you have a preference of the two?
Yeah, I believe that Xubuntu does a real good job. I like the operating systems built off of Fedora, because Fedora is a Red Hat project.
Right. Have you ever taken a look at Zorn?
Yeah, absolutely. I looked at back Zorn back when it was 10.04, 10.04. I looked at Zorn, and I really liked it. They had the different view manager there that was really neat. You could switch from a Windows look, a GNOME look, and etc. So Zorn had this really great comp piece effect too. They had it set up so nicely with the window dodge, and it was really, really stable and solid.
Yeah, that function on Zorn, that feature, I believe it's called the Look Changer. And I believe if you have, I believe the Ultimate Edition, which is almost free, I think it's about $10, that one gives you 6 different choices, 6 different environments between making it look like either standard Zorn, let's see, Mac OS, Ubuntu, and Windows XP. And 2 more or 3 more I can't think of off the top of my head, but that look changer was a brilliant move by the Zorn team to make the people say, hey, this is what Linux can do. You're not stuck with one type of environment. You can make it look like this, or if you're really comfortable with this, with the Windows look, and want to see what else, let's go into the Ubuntu look. But yeah, when I first saw that look changer, I thought personally that was brilliant.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I agree. And I heard a lot of guys, they absolutely rave about making that premium upgrade. They said that that is absolutely worth it. And what we get as a free download, you're right, there's like 3 or 4 extra looks, but it's amazing. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Zorn was real clever about that too. Now, ain't that look changer? Now, isn't that closed as far as closed source?
I don't think it is. I mean, as far as I know, I
Well,
have yeah, I have Zorn actually hooked up in a virtual box. I had the I kind of outgrew Zorn since I'm not really a newbie anymore. Not that there's anything wrong with me using Zorn, but yeah, I have it in virtual box, and I tend to go back to it when somebody asks a question that they're stuck on, or how do they do something, a specific function. So I'll go back into the system to check it out. But I think, look, Zorn has been out for what, 3, 4 years now, and they really did a terrific job in making Windows newbies, Linux newbies feel comfortable to say, hey, you can make Linux look like any way you want to, even Windows.
yep, that's right. And today, I don't know of any other OS that even tried to duplicate that window look.
Right. Uh, One of the lightweight, fastest ones out there that I've tried over the years is Ubuntu. Now it's not quite 100% newbie friendly. You would have to download some extra software to get your MP3s playing movies. You would have to download codecs. But a new kid on the block would be Linux Lite. That came out, I believe, right before the past holidays, and that I believe has full functionality right out of the box. It uh, kind of the start menu kind of reminds me a bit of Windows XP or Windows 2000, which is great. It's just a simple desktop environment. It's made to work out of the box. Nothing fancy, not really a lot of eye candy, but it wasn't made to that. It's made to be a lightweight download and a lightweight type of distribution. Just something that to install, update it, and you're ready to go out of the box. Have you messed around with any type of lightweight OSs?
I took a look at Xubuntu and was quite impressed with that one. I liked when Linux Mint, well, they just released theirs too, and it was just extremely fast. And when running these lightweight operating systems on the newer computers, if like Core i3 all the way up to Core i7, is just unbelievably fast. The XFCE is just, it's amazing, isn't it?
Boy, it sure is. I actually have a machine from back 2004. It's an old ThinkPad, which are complete workhorses, and I believe that one has Ubuntu. And yes, it is fast. But I may have found something faster. I mentioned briefly in Preach, and I was talking in Preach about uh, Manjaro Linux, but that's based off of Arch. Arch really, in and of itself, by default, is not really made for newbies. But as I spoke to in pre-chat, I've been messing with Manjaro Linux, the open box edition. Now, the developers made some modifications to it, not make it quite as difficult to install, and it does have a GUI package manager to install applications. It doesn't really have a software center yet to browse through. But Charlie, in terms of pure speed, just pure speed, I'm not talking newbie friendliness or stability, although it seems stable. In terms of pure speed, OpenBox to me so far is probably the fastest I have seen.
You know, it's funny you brought that up because I just saw your review on the Manjaro, and I was telling a friend of mine that I think he ought to go ahead and get that and take a look at it and get it installed. Um, he has an older ThinkPad, just like you were talking about there, and we were just discussing this because the Lenovo, I think that was the maker of the his ThinkPad was either IBM or Lenovo. Well, anyway, they have their workhorses, like you said, and they have state-of-the-art circuitry in them, and I just recommended that.
Yeah, I actually have several ThinkPads, and yes, I guess I can make a recommendation if you were shopping for a new laptop. Look for a ThinkPad. The ones I have are terrific. Now, getting back to the Linux for Newbies. Have you messed with something called PC Linux OS?
No, I have not. I've read all the reviews on it. I have it sitting on an external drive, and just not hadn't had made my way to it yet.
I had on my top 10 list number 10. I have taken a look at it in the past, and it seemed okay. But there's one number 10. It's the PC Linux OS, the full Monty, and I had to put it on there if but for the only reason that it's a 4 GB download. And I'm assuming this has everything that you could possibly need in a Linux-based operating system. Now, I haven't tested it yet, but I'm confident that it's made for newbies. But if you ever get a chance and take a look at it, let me know.
Oh, I certainly will. And I saw that you had Netrunner really
Oh
on your
yeah,
list as.
yeah, that one's absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, I have Netrunner. I have there was I have the second edition installed on a home theater PC system, and real fond of Netrunner. I really like what they've done with that. And if I'm not mistaken, ain't that a Mint project as well? Aren't they part of like a company called Blue?
Um, Someone may have mentioned that. I'm not entirely sure. The first time I took a look at Netrunner was last year, and I kind of liked what I saw last year, but they seem to be getting better. I'm not necessarily a big fan of KD environments, but this one, Netrunner, I thought looked absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I just did a review on the new Netrunner, and it's quite amazing. Now they've taken that KDE to a new level, especially anything built from Ubuntu. It's really good. You know, they have their own cloud. They have the some of the web apps already installed right in there. So right out of the box, the new user can jump into KDE and just really get used to it real fast. And it's really not that hard to figure out.
No, it's not. KD tends to be a little bit more, I won't say bloated, but maybe, it tends to be a little bit more loaded, jacked up, and maybe for a newbie that might be a little bit too much, but it is made to work, usually made to work right out of the box after installing, updating, and getting ready to go. But if a newbie is looking for something fully jacked, Netrunner, and then certainly take a look at the PC Linux OS with an almost 4 GB download. So, yeah, if you had to give advice for, newbies about about Linux in general, what would you advise them?
Well, I advise everybody, and I've got a service run tomorrow morning, and they wanted to know what Linux am I going to put on their machine, and it's going to be Linux Mint, and it's going to be 13 based on the 1204 there, because it simply works. Everything just works. There's not. I haven't found any problems with it. I think the Mate desktop is absolutely perfect, and you'll we go back to GNOME 2. Look, GNOME 2 was absolutely excellent, stable. It was great. Fundun 2 is still using it, and everything that's using the GNOME 2, I really do believe they all need to go over to Mate now. I think Linux Mint has it.
Yeah, like I said, I've always liked the Mint menu. It has the GNOME 2 look, even though I guess technically it's using GNOME 3 technologies. But there's something to be said about simplicity, and the GNOME shell, the GNOME 3. It looks good. I think it's slick. It's different, but it's not my favorite. I still prefer Linux Mint Mate, and like I said, my current desktop is Ubuntu 12.04. But yeah, probably for newbies and even some intermediate or even power users, you really can't go wrong with something that simple that just works. Let's see. Let me grab my notes here. What else do I have? Um, the one thing I wanted to say was this before we end this podcast here. As far as my advice for newbies goes, uh, Linux is not Windows, and it's not meant to be. Yes, some OSs like Zorn can look like Windows, but that's just there. That look, that environment is just to make you feel comfortable. You know, kind of like point and click or point and shoot. Just click to start, go from there, search. Now, certain pieces of software can work both. in Linux and Windows, like a terrific media player is VLC, which I use both in Linux and Windows. So, but if you're going to try Linux, the best advice I can give you is be patient. Pick one that's going to be easy, and you can certainly look at my top 10 list, or maybe there are some others out there in the YouTube land that may have some other recommendations for you. I have tested every one of my lists except number 10 on my list, which is PC Linux OS, and I intend to do that sometime in the future. But as far as the rest goes, I have tested. And if you want to try Linux and want to try something that looks different, I would probably recommend Ubuntu because it is new and different. If you want to keep it simple, stick with Zorn. If you want something lightweight, I would probably try Xubuntu or Linux Lite. Probably more Linux Lite because that one I believe is a more complete out-of-the-box experience. With Xubuntu, I believe you still need to download some extra software, some codecs to play all of your multimedia. So Charlie, what do you think?
Well, I think you nailed it. You know, the simplicity to run Mate is there, and that's what people really want when they first start out. But you know, Linux is really funny. You'll get somebody who'll start with it with Linux Mint, and then about a month later they start venturing, you know, into looking at other distros. They see something in a community that they got involved with, and they try that one, and they try that one, and it just progresses from there. It's almost like baby steps, isn't it?
Yeah, I first started with Linux. Boy, my first exposure was probably 2005, 2006 with Ubuntu. And really back then, you know, even though Ubuntu has made great strides over the last 2, 3, 4 years, excuse me, but really back then, I still had to learn about, about codecs and getting those downloaded and installed, and it wasn't quite stable. But really, starting with, like you mentioned, Linux Mint really started, made people start feeling more comfortable with Linux, and then along came Zorn, which is something that looks like Windows, and it opened up a whole new world. And really, Linux Mint, Ubuntu, and Zorn, they just keep getting better and better. I think a lot of credit has to go to Ubuntu for coming out with something new that wasn't necessarily well liked when it first came out, and that's Unity. When I first saw Unity, I was thinking, hold on, this is different, but I kind of like it, and sure enough, it is my default desktop. So for all you newbies out there, if you want to try something new and something different, maybe Unity. If you are completely new and you just need some hand holding and want to get started off the bat, maybe consider Zorn. As far as something lightweight, out of the box, perhaps Linux Lite.
And I wanted to add too that when you when you first install Linux Mint and whatever, and I believe it's Firefox, you open it up, it takes you to the Linux Mint community. You will not find a more friendly community than the Linux Mint forums. It just seems like any possible question you could have, there's an answer for it. And the response time after asking your question is quick. You'll get none. I mean, that is fact. That Linux Mint forum, that is an awesome community.
Yes, I have browsed through it. It does seem quite friendly and informative. But yeah, probably if I had to guess, probably most of the forums, Ubuntu, Linux Mint, probably going to be very friendly and helpful. Of course, nothing is 100%. You may run into a few issues. I personally have not, but if I ever came across an issue with someone who was just being mean, I just ignore them. But that's how I do things. But yeah, as far as Linux Mint and their help forums, they are really top notch. Well, Charlie, I think we can probably conclude this edition of the Total OS Today podcast on the best recommendations for Linux distributions, Linux OSs for newbies for 2012. I want to mention one last one that may be on my list for 2013, and that is going to be Chrome OS. I took a brief look at it. Chrome OS is fairly new here to the ball game. Of course, it's by Google. The one thing I noticed about Chrome OS is it's extremely fast, extremely newbie friendly. Now it's designed for people who just want to buy a laptop, And by the way, those machines they start at $200, $200 up to what, 400 or 500. But just for someone who just wants to get on the web, do all this stuff on the web, Google offers free updates to both the software and the OS, and for 200 some bucks, you really can't go wrong. But just real brief, have you messed with Chrome OS?
No, I haven't, and it's funny we were talking about ThinkPads. I seen where the what is it? ThinkPad has a Chromebook now, and it's just a little bit over $400. And with the state-of-the-art circuitry that's in those, we were actually getting ready to pre-order one of ours, the ThinkPad with the Chrome OS. And another thing you get with the Chrome OS is I think you get like 100 gigabytes of the Google Drive for free just from buying it. And you get access to the Google Play and stuff. And that is a fantastic setup the way they do that. That is my next adventure.
Well, folks, there you go. Yes, if you want a top-notch laptop, top quality with something that's brand new, state-of-the-art, you don't want anything fancy, just get on the web and go. Charlie, you are right. ThinkPad with Chrome OS. Check it out. Well, folks, that concludes tonight's show for this podcast for Linux Newbies. If you have any other recommendations about recommending a certain Linux distribution for newbies, please let us know. We'll be happy to mention it or maybe upload a video about something that we haven't thought about. But Charlie, thank you so much for being on the show. I would love to have you back, maybe for the Parents Podcast, if I can ever schedule everybody at the same time. Boy, I really hate time zones. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and as always, I will catch all of you sometime in the future.